Alrighty guys, hey, how's it going? My name is Ryan Brunty. I recognize a couple of you, and there's other friends that I don't, but holy shit, thank you guys for coming out. I do cuss a lot, so sorry to my mom sitting right there. I know this is gonna get weird, sorry mom. So on the count of three, I want everyone just to say shit with me. So 1, 2, 3. Shit. Thank you. I didn't see my mom say it, so we're gonna do that one more time. 1, 2, 3. Shit. All right, my mom did say it that time. So I'm a local artist here in town. All my work kind of focuses on mental health awareness. So I like to kind of make things a little bit more approachable because I know that depression and anxiety is kind of a hard thing to talk about. So my name's Ryan and this is Yerman. A lot of you might have seen him around town. He is a sad little Yeti that hangs around on streets and sometimes on street art, sometimes on Banksy pieces, and then I get in trouble for it. But he's definitely starting to come into his own. Slowly but surely, he's starting to become his own little force. So Yerman means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So as you can see, he's even tried to break the internet at one point. So this was when the Kim Kardashian thing had come out and local pop rock band Boy had sent this over Twitter. There's other pictures that were included in this PowerPoint with other influencers that have taken pictures with them, including some Big Brother cast and things like that. It was just a way to illustrate where Yerman has been and where he's come from. So before he was what he is today, he all started right here. Started as a little brain that just wasn't firing right. Up here, like synapses weren't firing right, the chemical imbalance was making things really hard to get a clarity in a lot of different things. And so I guess the journey of Yerman starts when I was a kid. I remember being the kid that used to really get upset that Christmas was over because I would never get another one. And so I would lay in my bed and just kind of cry and sit there and go, why am I never gonna get another Christmas? Like, it's such a menial thing, but as a kid, like that's all you know is those really high moments. And so I never really thought anything was wrong until much later in life when those looming moments started becoming more and more looming. And I would realize that some days I couldn't even get dressed because the clothes I was wearing were too itchy. And so I would sit in my closet for 10 or 20 minutes just trying to get used to how clothes fit. And it turns out this is a real thing called depression. And they don't really teach you that in school. They don't teach you that in elementary school because how do you teach that to kids? How do you tell kids that there's a reason you're sad and it's your brain's fault? There's no way to approach that. And so the story with Yerman actually starts a couple years ago when my grandfather died. So my grandfather was the patriarch of my family. He was the man that everybody kind of looked up to. He was the man. He was a man's man, but he was also very much so a woman's man. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. Everyone loved him. He was the best man on the planet. And so I wanted to impress him any way that I could, and so my way of impressing him was looking into a secret society that he was part of called the Freemasons. And if you're familiar with the Freemasons, you know that they supposedly hold all the secrets to the world. They're entry-level Illuminati. Everyone thinks it's more interesting than it actually is, but to him, it was interesting because it characterized everything that he was as a person. We knew my grandfather, and we knew surface-level grandfather, but we didn't know what he was when he was in these secret societies. So I wanted to find out. I wanted to see behind the scenes because I was a curious little cat. And so I remember one Christmas, I walked up to him and I said, Grandpa, how do you join the Freemasons? And he looked at me and he smiled and he goes, you just did. And so I remember that Christmas because he took me to his office and he closed the door and we sat in his office and we just went over all the secrets that I wasn't supposed to know, the ones that you're supposed to keep hidden, in a safe somewhere. And so as long as I didn't tell anybody, it was fine for me to know. And so that kind of like made me want to learn more and more, and to the point where I started going to meetings with him, and I became a entered apprentice of the Masonic Lodge. And if you look at me, I don't look like a Mason. I look like just a desert rat that was born and raised in Las Vegas. And so going to these meetings, it was a lot of veterans, it was a lot of older folk that really really glorified like their way as the way to go. And so it was really hard for me to connect with these people because in that sense, like it's hard to connect with someone that is so set in their ways. And so I remember just going there and feeling like an outcast right away. And so going to these meetings, I just felt really uncomfortable, and so I stopped going. And so when you join, you get a little booklet that you're supposed to memorize. And I started looking through it, and I started going to meetings, and I started memorizing all these things, but it just never clicked for me. And so weeks turned into months, months turned into 6 months, and eventually my grandparents figured out that I just wasn't going to do it. And so I remember getting a call from my grandmother, and she kind of called, and she had a little bit of hesitation in her voice, and she said, so how's the studying going? And I knew right away that that was a very loaded question, that she knew the answer to that question right away, and I kind of just hesitated for a second, and I said, it's just not going to work out for me. And at the time, I was 25, and I thought that I had the rest of my life to figure out my devotion to the Masons, because I was a young kid. I could do this when I was older. It wasn't until a couple months later that my grandfather started brushing his hair and hit a tumor in his head and collapsed that I realized just how short life is. And that's when my world started really crushing down, and everything started to crumble. I remember very clearly how my grandmother asked me that, because that kind of set the pace for those next couple of months. I would go out to see him a lot, and I would go out to see my grandma a lot, and I remember just being really down about the fact that I had let him down. I hadn't become a Mason. He had devoted his entire life to helping other people, to charity, to this society that had taken care of him, and here I was, and I couldn't even follow through on that. And we only had him for about 2 months before he passed for good, and that's when I started really realizing that something was wrong, because I didn't leave my house for 2 weeks after he had died. And I remember just waking up every morning, and again, those feelings of my clothes not fitting right, and things being itchy, and just being uncomfortable in my own skin. I'm sure a lot of you suffer from depression or anxiety, and you know how that feels. And it got to a point where I just stopped leaving my house, and it got to a point where no one wanted to really see me anymore, because no one wants to be friends with the sad kid. No one wants to be friends with the kid that doesn't get off of his couch. And so I had one friend at the time left who came over, and he walked into the house, and I probably looked like Gary Busey or something. My hair was like all crazy. I just looked really isolated. And so I remember he came in, and there was dryer sheets on all of my windows. And so he sits down, I'm just drawing, just not even realizing he's there, and he goes, hey man, what's going on with all the dryer sheets on the windows? And to me, it was like a normal thing. This is my house. It's just, I'm cleansing the house of all the bad spirits. And he looked at me, and I go, hi man, I just need it to be clean in here. And he left, and that was his exit. And why wouldn't he leave? Like, that's absolutely crazy for someone to have dryer sheets on their windows, right? Right? No? Okay. I guess everyone has dryer sheets on their windows. So I started leaving my house a couple days a week to go to a local coffee shop called Grouchy John's. And I'm sorry to say another coffee shop in here, because I love this place. It's pertinent to the story, I promise. And so I started going there a couple days a week just to get out of my house and acclimate myself back to society a little bit. And it felt really good just to surround myself with walls and something that wasn't my prison of a house at the time. And so I started just getting out of my shell a little bit, started drawing a little bit more. I started drinking coffee at the place. I started talking to more people, but I would still go home and be absolutely by myself, just not going anywhere, not seeing anybody. And it got to the point where I would start drawing self-portraits every morning. And so these self-portraits would really range. Oh, that's the old PowerPoint. Yeah, that's okay. I would do self-portraits every day, and they could range from anything from a monster to a deranged-looking, homeless-looking man, anything. But to me, these were the self-portraits of how I was feeling that day. And then at one point, a little monster came out, and it was this guy right here. And I remember looking down at the paper, and I just go, wow, that's absolutely how I feel. I mean, on the outside, I probably look fine, and I probably look like there's a lot on my mind, but there's so much more going on to that. So I remember I shared it to Twitter, and that was the first character that people started really like taking a liking to, because to me, Twitter was my lifeline to the world. Like, Twitter was the way that I was able to reach out and I almost sang a Depeche Mode song there, but I was able to reach out and actually touch someone, and I was able to like make connections with people and actually feel like I was a part of this world again. And so that after that, I started really focusing on that character and really drawing him and going to First Fridays and figuring out what people wanted to see this character on and what poses and things like that. And after that, like, I started realizing that this was my coping mechanism, that painting and drawing and watercoloring and drawing this character was my coping mechanism. I don't think a lot of people realize that Yerman is a self-portrait, and he still continues to be. I only paint how I feel. And so just recently, I just painted a 40-foot wall, and as you can see, he's happy. And this was the first time that I'd actually painted him happy, and it's crazy to me because people online actually realized that he looked different. And there's people in this room that actually hit me up and told me, hey, that Yerman's happy, what's going on? I see Kevin shaking his head. And so it took a long time for me to realize just how much of a part of this character I was and just how much it reflected me as a person. So that's kind of where Yerman came from, and that's kind of the genesis of that character. And I think that the most interesting thing to me is just how people are they're able to see themselves in the character too. I mean, now currently people are starting to take their own recognition of it and really start putting their own face to it and start drawing their own monsters, and it's becoming a little bit bigger than I thought it would. And so just recently I was at Life is Beautiful, which is something that I never thought I would do. I mean, I was drawing these little watercolors in my house, and then now taking that same character by the main stage of Life is Beautiful is something that, like, never in a million years I would think would happen. And so that's one piece by the main stage, and the other piece was at the Art Motel. So that was a really, really neat experience. And then I had so many people coming up to me telling me their stories about their mental health and about their anxiety and about their depression. And for people to trust me with their stories is a little overwhelming, but it's such a big sense of trust that I feel from that, because that's not something easy to talk about, and I just wish that there wasn't that stigma around it, because you really have to speak out, because it's not a mental health issue, it's a human health issue. And if we're really going to beat this, and if we're really going to start connecting over this, we have to talk about it, and you can't be afraid to talk about it. So there's a man in this room named Andrew Hansen right in the back right there, and I owe a lot to him. I've known him since high school, and he's one of the most talented people I know. And he's a fashion designer, he's an all-around artist, and so he's friends with Burt McCracken from The Used. Andrew doesn't know this side of the story, though. So when I was in college, I had my first suicidal thoughts. I don't even think my mom knows this. Yeah, she's looking all crazy right now. Sorry, Mom. So I had my first suicidal thoughts in college, and I was going through a pretty bad breakup at the time. It was a terrible relationship. Everyone's been in those, and it ended horribly. And so I was 600 miles away at college, just by myself in my dorm, and I just laid there for 3 days, not going to class, not doing anything, and I started really experiencing these scary thoughts. And the only album that saved me was the first Used album, and it was actually Burt McCracken that saved my life. And so fast forward 7 years, Andrew's friends with him, we hang out with him all the time, and now he's wearing a Yerman shirt on tour. So it's like, it really is, everything is full circle, and it's amazing how much if you put yourself out there, you really just see it come full circle, and every day is a new day. So I don't think you knew that story, did you, Andrew? So, and then of course here's Sarah Jessica Parker. Huge thanks to Melissa for this. Sarah Jessica Parker doing a little Yerman shout out here, which is just crazy. Again, never thought in a million years that that would happen. And this is the craziest part, is now people are starting to get the little guy tattooed. So I drew this at Comic-Con in June, or July, and within a week, this was tattooed on somebody. So it's like, this movement of like the Yerman movement is just, it's starting to blow my mind a little bit, just because people are starting to ink them. Like, I would never do this in a million years. I'll be honest with you, I would never do this. But someone did this. Someone likes this character so much and trusts what it means and trust in the fact that it's more than just a character, and it's about mental health awareness so much that it's tattooed on them forever. And that, like, when I saw this, I actually cried a little bit, because that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So, and the biggest thing that really blows my mind now is that people are starting to use the Yerman method in their therapy sessions. And so, as you can see from here, Jimmy Jobin, he told me this about a couple months ago, that for his clients, the fact that drawing monsters, it helps them cope with their mental health and their depression and their anxiety. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing to be able to help people like that. I mean, I never thought that art would be able to help someone cope with those things, because I guess I didn't understand my own mental health for so long that it's now getting to the point where I'm starting to understand how different things affect different people. Okay, so there's a couple mantras that I live my life by that help me cope with my depression and my anxiety. So I'm not a certified therapist. I don't want you guys to think I'm a certified therapist. I just know what helps me. So if you want to come up after this talk and talk about your journey, by all means, I would love to. But really trust in a professional, because they're the only one that can really help at this point. So the first one is, you are the world you create. And this one has a double meaning for me, because you literally create your world. As an artist, you create your palette, and you take something from your head and you put it onto a piece of paper, and you show the world your creation and your version of the world. But the other meaning behind that is surrounding yourself with like-minded people. Surrounding yourself with people that inspire you, that push you, that want the best out of you, that don't take away from you, that aren't toxic. You want people that your mom would be proud of. You know, and Mom, are you proud of this group? Is this all right? All right, cool, you got the mom seal of approval. And the next one is look forward to life. I mean, this is honestly a lifesaver. I mean, if you have, the way that I look at it is, if you have something to look forward to every day, and you have something that excites you, and something that motivates you, and something that makes you happy, and something that you can just think about all day and say, man, I can't wait to go get dinner with my friend, or I can't wait to go skydiving next week, or man, I can't wait till next week when I do this big presentation. It alleviates so much stress, and it alleviates so much on your mind, because you have something to get excited about. There's so many people that just go home every day and they don't really focus on themselves. They just go home, they do the dishes, they eat, and they get in this routine. And that's fine. If that works for you, that's amazing, but you really should push yourself to just be excited about things, because you don't know how bad that depression can seep up until it seeps up and it's there. And by that time, you're drowning, and you're in this wave where the waves are crashing over you. And it's really important to try to avoid that. And then this one, every day reinvent yourself. So every day is a new day. It doesn't matter what happens today. It doesn't matter if your girlfriend broke up with you. It doesn't matter if you got in a fight with your parents. Like, every day is a chance to reinvent yourself. Every day is a chance to wake up and say, I'm gonna do this better today. I'm gonna do this differently today. I'm gonna treat this person more kindly. I'm gonna tell this person this. I'm gonna go out on a limb and tell them this because they look like they're having a bad day. And I don't think enough people realize the effect of paying it forward like that. That if you just tell somebody something nice, you can affect their entire day. And it's a chance to reinvent someone else's day along with your own day. And that's a beautiful thing. And my personal favorite is inspire others to inspire others. This one's actually my personal mantra. I think that if we're living every day inspiring others to inspire others, we're creating this chain effect of creativity and just wonderment, where we create a world that's better than the last day. And that's what's really important, because let's face it, this world sucks. Like, there's not a lot that's good anymore. Like, even the beautiful things are starting to get pulled down by horrible, like, bigots or politicians or this or that and that. And if we can just inspire each other, we can create a revolution, and we can create a world where we're building each other up instead of letting the top build us down. And I think that's the most wonderful thing. And I think I got way too deep on that, but whatever, man, I'm winging it. So, yeah, so that's it. So, so that's it. I'm Vegas Ryan on Twitter and Instagram if you want to follow me. I'll be here hanging out and probably drinking at Velveteen Rabbit next door if you guys want to go have a drink. And my mom and sister right there if you want to say hi to them. And thanks, everybody.